Hit start streaming. Should be live now. Brilliant, right. Always love the amateur setting it up. Obviously I can hear you, but I'm trying to find the video. Brilliant. And is it just got the PowerPoint on? Is it full screen? Try now.
Test. Hello.
You should be able to hear it now.
Oh, yes, there we go. I'm in.
Brilliant. Cool. PowerPoint's full screen, yeah?
Right.
There's a delay, by the way, so you can't be just listening to me through the stream.
Nope. This is Amateur Hour 1A. Welcome, world.
So I'm trying to find our live stream so I can see what's going on.
You click on our channel, click on home, and then it appears as a live option.
There we go. Aha. There we go. Aha. Okay, right. I think we're in and good to start, to be honest. Aha. So with that in mind, we've got good to see Tim's there straight away. Hello, Tim. How are we doing today? I'm just going to give it a few, probably about another 60 seconds, just see if anyone else jumps in, and then we will get this underway. Right, Dan, you still good? You can still hear me?
Oh, I can still hear you.
Okay, brilliant. You've gone nice and quiet there, so just making sure. Right. That's good to see that that's working. Right, brilliant. So we'll just kick it off straight away because this is I say the boring bit, but the bit that's been long overdue, which is finally giving everyone a shout out that's been deserved on the Patreon. I might need to full screen it. Yeah, it's looking like it.
I think you're supposed to say something like, this is our first ever stream. This will be one for the ages that everyone will look back on and go, it's the worst one we ever did. While we're working out how everything works.
Absolutely. It's also great not having a second screen. Like, I really rate that. That's really helpful. It's super helpful. So, just wanted to make sure that the second slide's popped up.
Currently, no. Currently, it's on Crusade Weekly. Let's see what happens.
Ah, right. Ignore me. I'm being stupid. So. Right, now to kick it off, the main thing we want to do now, because we haven't had a proper chance to do it other than right at the start, is basically thanking everyone that is a patron or has been a patron, and just literally going to go through it by name. So we had John David Copian, Victor, Tyson Noseworthy, Prometheus, Williams, Matt Spooner, Sam Garvey, Drakkers, Iron Grinch, we need to keep on top of this in future, Wojtek, Frank Peters, Gavin Sharp, Mike Sherwood, Mark Crow, Greg Gonzalez, LGL 37. Weather this, big shout out to him. He's always very active in the Discord. He's been a great guy. He's always very positive in there. Has been noticed. Marcus Baker, Craig Gibson, Rim Resolve, Anthony Swafford, Salai, Tim Chisholm. That was like a really easy name. I don't know why I butchered that so badly. Christopher P, Brandon Terrell, Nico, Hang Pyo. I have no idea that. I'm going to call him Liz. Grover Smith, Peter Lloyd, Kinda Wayno, Ross Hines, Chris Hutchinson, Dustin at Buchanan, Trippy Imp, Sion Tabia, Asopopoulos, Cam Kirch, Collar Hall, Zardnif, and Phil. Now that's literally a big half of them. And then we're on to... Sorry, I literally lost it. There we are. Right, Sam, James, Max, Mario, Thunder Rats, Paul, Ricky Brown, Joshua, Nusf, Miles, Gabriel, Trey, Expon, Willie, Christian, Joshua, Patrick, Conrad, Joshua Prevost, Lymion, Adio, The Leviathan, Caleb, Fated Reaper, Strigoi and Ghoul Queen, Zachary Dunphy, Mixmer, Jacob John Pinnock, Manuel Coopers, Wizard Badger, Lewis Marty, Haley's Market, Prime Knight, McGobbo, Joseph Hobson, Brown Broadcastle, A Fire Inside Brown, Ragnar Blackgrape Main, Timothy Art, Tim, Major Mustwin, Dan Rowe, Ethan Coate, Tom Bober, Robert Galua, Michael Rose, Sam Floria, and Marco Fubini. Now, a number of these aren't patrons any longer, but that's also fine. But we did think they deserved a shout out because they did support us at one point or another. So thank you for that. Right, thank you for sitting through that. Hello Chris, and hello other Chris as well. Good to see you both in the chat there. Now moving on swiftly. Right, first this is your section really, Dan, because you've been sort of managing this. It's the campaign update.
Right, yep. So, the question is, firstly, where are we going to go to next? So, do you have the overall map ready?
The overall map ready? Yeah.
The overall map, yeah, shows our organisation. The campaign Warzone map.
Talk away, because it had to be preloaded into a thing and it wasn't.
Oh, how dare it be.
Yeah.
Right, so effectively there are two ways that we can take the campaign now, and we're going to let the audience decide where the next mission is going to be. The idea of the weekly update or bi-weekly update, depending on what we can achieve, is that we will write a mission live and then we'll play it, record it, and put it out to the public to play. Sometimes the mission will be available to patrons, sometimes it will be available to everyone. There are two options. We can follow the path of the Tyranid swarm as it eats its way towards Fortress Gundahar, or we can continue with the Silver Host as it fights back the Ark of Omen. So we have Warzone Vexia, or we have Warzone Sanctus Dominus. Helpfully they're said backwards. The two options are Warzone Sanctus Dominus, which is the defense of a Sisters world against the Tyranids, or there's Warzone Vexia. We ideally will be able to put a vote up. However, we suspect that such technical capabilities are beyond us at the moment. So, just put it in the chat. Do you want to defend the Tyranids, the Sisters, one of the Sisters chapel? Are they monastery worlds, Luke? You know Sisters better than I do. Are they monastery worlds?
They can't. Well, the Sisters sort of all over the place. I think you would have monastery worlds. I think more commonly they'd probably be more on shrine worlds.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure where the Sisters set up. Like, obviously when a Space Marine chapter sets up, they're generally on death planets or not very nice places, and then they have their fortress monasteries, don't they, on their home world.
It's a bit all over the place. So you have so like for example the Argent Shroud are recruited from Necromunda.
Is it just Necromunda?
Just the Argent Shroud. So they're from Necromunda specifically.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite an interesting thing. So what was it?
I didn't know.
A Shrine World defense or
So it's a Shrine World defense against Tyranids,
Yep.
or recapturing a Forge World.
I'm able to sling this up. Boom. That should be up for everyone now. So we're just going to leave that running through the stream. Whichever one wins is going to be what we're going to do, and obviously progress the narrative and the rest of it. So make sure you all vote on that.
Oh, I can't vote.
They will be the missions you'll be playing. Well, you're right in the mission.
Yeah, that's a shame. I can't vote on that. I kind of wanted to vote myself. We can swing it, right? We're 2 votes, so you know the 9 people watching. If we vote ourselves, there's a good option, and that'll swing the vote the way we want it to go.
Maybe people don't want the Forge World because all they can think of is more blue Admech and their toaster loving goodness.
They don't have to use blue Admech. You can use anything.
No, obviously any games we film in support of the narrative, but obviously the games at home, it's whatever you wish to use.
That's absolutely true. I wonder how many. Does it actually tell you? Oh, we've actually got 4 votes on there. Oh, that's not bad for the first ever one, is it?
No, that's 4 more than we usually get.
Well, it's a new record. It's 4. That's on 5 now.
I mean, this certainly beat any.
I actually have a genuine question. We've not actually talked about this very much because we played the Chaos Knights game, and we played that game very quickly one evening, and we've not actually talked since. Well, not about the game. How did you actually find the Chaos Knights? That's your first ever game with them.
Yeah, so with the Chaos Knights, obviously, the list I played was fairly combat orientated. I have a feeling the army's quite combat heavy anyway, because they just kick out ridiculous numbers of attacks. I feel now that they've got rid of the rule where you can just shoot anything and ignore terrain, that you actually have to think a bit more when you play them.
I guess you were handicapped a little bit by the fact that I painted the army, and it was a situation whereby I really I wasn't going to do a particularly stand back and shooty knight army, and I think I literally only made combat knights.
Yeah, well, I think there was the one with a really uber gun, but had 2 shots, and I kept rolling 1s and 2s, or just not wounding. Really easy wound rolls. Was that the game as well where I'd come back, literally flown back in, and then was...
It was that game, yes.
Yeah, that was...
You were so jet lagged you don't even remember your only game with knights.
Yeah, it wasn't great. It's still a good army. Looking forward to adding Imperial Knights to the channel, hopefully this year. But that said, so sorry if I butchered the name. It's Kator or Katao. So I see that you said, sorry, I don't know what a campaign is. I'm pretty new in the hobby. So in short, what we do as part of the channel, it's been a little lacking recently because we've just been keeping on top of things. But we're running a global campaign. So with this, think of it like maybe a Dungeons & Dragons campaign, but with Warhammer. So you can go and play with your friends, or perhaps play on Tabletop Simulator. That's something you might want to look into if you're new to the hobby as well. And then you can submit results, and we provide a link that you can submit the results of your game. And then what that will do is influence the global narrative we're running that anyone in the world can get involved in. And then by doing that, the outcome will change. Different factions will win or lose, and planets will be either defended or turned into slave pits or tyrannid biomass or whatever cruel fate might await them in this galaxy. So you got anything to add to that, Dan?
Nope, that's about covers it.
That's brilliant. Obviously, any more questions, always fire away. Hit us up in Discord, because there's tons of really nice, useful people in the Discord which will just jump straight on and try and help you out. So,
right, looks like we're going to be defending a sister's homeworld.
Well, we'll leave it through the stream and see what happens, but it's looking that way.
It'll be quite difficult to write a mission if we don't know which one we're going to write.
Oh, we're writing it now. Brilliant. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll give it another 60 seconds in that case, so ending it at 1:15.
No, there's no way that's swinging. Look at that, 62 to 38. Foregone conclusion.
Right, brilliant. So it looks like Shrine World Defense will be the winner.
Okay, have you actually had... Well, it's a wee bit unfair. Have you managed to load that particular planet?
So we'll have to add that post stream. So those things have to be set up into the streaming software beforehand. And
lesson
what
learned.
I did is loaded it into the PowerPoint, which was no help.
No, none at all. So moving on then. This planet is going to be called Sanctus Dominus. It is a homeworld to one of the Sisters chapters. Doesn't really matter which one. And the Tyranid swarm has made its way over, and now they need to defend to the last man. Unfortunately, it is not a question of will they hold, but a case of how long will they hold for before they get consumed by the swarm. Obviously, the point of the campaign is going to be to slow down the advance of the Tyranids to Fortress World Gundahar. If Fortress World Gundahar falls at the end of the campaign, then that's going to have significant impacts on future campaigns. However, if the Tyranid swarm is stopped at Gundahar, it's one of the key linchpin worlds in the Segmentum Pacificus. So we need to write a mission, Luke. It needs to be a narrative mission. We want to write a full narrative mission and not just a match play mission, because they're quite easy to do. Any ideas?
Well, straight away we've got that classic. You know, it's in the title, isn't it? It's Shrine World Defense, or so it's that we've got that classic one. I think maybe similar to the what we did with that Dark Angels versus Chaos Demon game.
Also, some kind of hold the line idea.
So hold the line. I specifically like the one where you had a lot of objectives in the middle, and the defender basically stopped the attacker getting a bonus if they held them. But all the game came down to was the attacker needs to take your home objective to win.
We haven't done one where anyone's been surrounded recently.
That could be quite different, almost like having one player deploy in the middle and then the attacker, so the aggressor, deploying on each side in the hammer and anvil style.
Yeah, true. We could do one like that. Right, let's do one like that then. So we've got one where you're surrounded. Do we want any Gene Stealer cult presence, or do we want any? I guess there could have been nefarious going-ons that have influenced the Imperial forces.
Well, I mean, that's what makes the narrative quite good as well, because obviously Gene Stealer cults would work with the High Fleet and would just, especially the advanced versions of them, they'd be politicking and, you know, stirring up all kinds of trouble to try and get other factions to, you know, weaken the defenders.
We could almost do this one the other way around, whereby the cults that have risen, obviously different people have got different things at home, so they don't have to use Gene Stealer cults. You could use Chaos Insurgents, or just Imperial citizens who've lost the plot a little bit and are rebelling because they don't know differently. I guess you're going to struggle a little. Even Space Marines, you could justify have decided that enough's enough and they're doing something to hold something. Although that is a little bit more of a stretch, we can accept. So we could actually do it the other way around, whereas the cults are actually holding something before the Tyranids arrive, and the Sisters are actually doing the attacking.
Yeah, the best defense is a good offense at the end of the day, isn't it?
Well, I guess it could be that the cults have risen, they've grabbed something, say a void shield generator, and then so it's not actually the Sisters being surrounded, it's actually the cultists who have been surrounded.
I think that's the mission, isn't it? A key city or a key population centre that effectively the Gene Stealer cultists have taken control of the orbital defence grid, so like the void shields, and the Sisters need to get in there before they destroy it and take it down. So I think if the Sisters get on it and control it at the end of the game, then that means they've won, they've taken control of the area. And
I like it. Nice and
obviously,
simple, so we'll have a central... Sorry.
Yeah, and then obviously if they fail, then, well, the shields are coming down, the Tyranids are coming in.
So we'll have a central objective. The attackers, well, it's not the attackers, it's whomever holds at the end wins.
Yeah, brilliant. So
Type scenario.
I think that's quite good. Also, yeah, that's also good. I've just seen where Chris slung that in. Yeah, a defensive mission where you're on the offense. I do like it. And hello, Weather This. Hello again. Welcome.
What about deployment?
So the deployment, I would do hammer and anvil, but the well, the Sisters or the Imperium player can deploy on either side. So they can split their forces and come at the centre of the board from each side.
So we've had it quite well in the past, whereby the defender has to deploy all of their army,
Yeah,
and then the attacker goes first, and the attacker gets to use their movement value to enter the board.
that could be quite good.
Should we do it that way?
So that's better when you have, say, a larger attacking force that then comes in staged points. But as a standard format for the mission, I think just being able to deploy on both sides and having the
How long's a board? 60 inches, isn't it?
these days, yeah.
Yeah, you want 18 inches between the two armies. So what's the maths on that?
Quick maths. That to be fair, the exact maths of it we can have in the PDF that we release to everyone.
We can hammer out. We can hammer out the maths, of course. It's more, does it actually even work as a general principle? Mathematically, that does give you enough room for both sides to actually have a deployment zone. So yeah, that works quite well. Yeah, we'll just do it that way.
Right, brilliant. So what we're going to do after this is we're going to get that properly written up, and then we'll drop the link for that in the playback for this live stream. So the live stream will be on the channel like a normal video. But yeah, so to play that mission, get playing it, submit your results, and hopefully we get some Imperial wins. I'm not biased at all. That's what we want.
Yeah, it's just you best not be playing then.
I'm so good at the game. Right, are we ready for the next slide?
We are. Roll on.
So this was one question as well, because we asked many people in the Discord to get a few sort of ideas for the stream, which they'll be coming up in a bit. But I think this is one key point that we wanted to touch on for 5 minutes, which is, what do armies need? And what I mean by this is, what does an army need in 10th edition? What do you need to effectively play the game? And I'm putting this question to you, Dan, because I've not got anyone else to. But obviously to the chat as well.
Are you asking me if what one model I would like to see in each faction, or are you asking me what do we actually need to win a game in 10th?
Yeah, what do you need to make sure that you have a fighting chance in 10th? Because obviously you could just run whatever you want.
I think it's been quite interesting looking at the meta recently and just looking at the different army lists. Since the balance data slate's been released, I think the armies seem to be a lot more diverse. So, I mean, high damage is a good point.
Paint is a very good point too. Which is a good point, Tim. You're slacking. I've not seen any Eldar from you after your mental drive earlier this year. Sort it out.
You've either got to have, this comes down to the old triangle, doesn't it? Speed, armor, or firepower. It doesn't really answer the question at all. Looking at your sister's video the other day, there weren't any tanks in there, were there?
No, that's the guy that won the tournament.
Yeah.
No, there was. He took 2 castigators with battle cannons and an immolator. Okay.
So I think that the armor's playing an interesting segment in 10th. If you look at 9th, tanks, they featured, but I don't think they were as important as they are in 10th. So, you know, some kind of staying power. I think the big one that's often underestimated, and I think when we put together our narrative lists and we just write an army that looks quite nice, I think when we put it on the table, sometimes we find that we haven't got that unit that can drop down and score you those points on the secondary. The deep striking unit that can just drop behind enemy lines on turn 3, or the unit that can push in and take an objective. So, and I think that's where Deathguard in particular interestingly struggle, is once they're on the board, their ability to move around on that board are quite limited.
Yep.
So some speed mixed with hard hitting power. If we look at the Custodes game that we played recently with the Admech, and then you compare it to the Custodes game against the Sisters, and the changes that we put in that army list there, other than the fact that I couldn't hit anything and you kept rolling every single 4 up in the game,
Kinged again.
Was the fact that the AdMech had some kind of move forward and punch you off of a point, whereas in the Custodes game they had nothing that could actually do that.
Yeah, because actually that's a good point. Like obviously you couldn't go into Custodes because they would just laugh at you and slap you back. Whereas when I was playing with the Sisters, I do agree with your point of having the deep striking units and the mobility, especially because that's what I do touch on in the Sisters video, which is like behind enemy lines, deploy teleport homers, engage on all fronts. If you haven't got deep strike units which are cheap and can come down and just fulfill that role, then that's a secondary you're going to struggle to fulfill. So it's definitely worth looking at a secondary deck. But anyway, it's like your combat units you did have with the AdMech. I think they were the Rust Stalkers or the Infiltrators, where they can kick out an alright amount of damage. Like the Custodians laughed at them, but my Sisters,
I think I did 1 wound.
Yeah, whereas the Sisters, I think I had like 10 on an objective at one point in our recent game, as a sort of trading unit, and it was literally like you walked in, I picked the unit up.
Yep, that was that.
And that was that. So I think AdMech do have those units where they can, push and charge and deal combat damage, but into certain armies, they're just going to bounce.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what happens when the Codex comes out.
Yeah, well, we know you're going to get a very tall sniper, so...
No, I'm not. I'm cutting his legs off. That might be a Marmite. That'd be interesting actually. What do people think of that model? Has anyone seen that model in the chat? The AdMech sniper on legs.
Do you know what I want to see done with it? I want to see someone take that model, use it in Necromunda as one of the Dalak gangs, basically the mateys which look like offenders in leather jackets, but then green stuff a massive coat on him. So it's like one of them old like cartoon sketches where you've got 2 kids stood on each other's shoulders trying to get into a bar or something.
No, I feel like I want 3 of them because they look quite interesting, but I definitively hate the model.
Yeah, game over.
I really hate that one. Why does he need legs like that? What's he going to do with that?
Look over a fence.
Has he not read the rules? Does he not know that he can shoot through buildings? He doesn't need to look over the top. He just needs to stand in it, and then he's allowed to shoot through it.
Yeah, you might be taller than the building, but in this edition, you can't shoot over it.
I might model one with a giant flag that just says, with an arrow pointing at him, just in case anyone missed him.
I'm over here.
Yeah, I'm over here. I'm still really upset that AdMech don't have some kind of giant robot model. Just some big centerpiece, smashy automaton. Like you've got one in 30th. You know Heresy better than I do. You've got that giant, like a Castellan robot on I don't know, spinach, and it's.
Oh, I think they're called phalanxes.
Yeah, huge, and they look awesome. But I'm like, why don't we have those in 40k? Those robots are stomping.
I think it's like where you had Windows 98 and now we've got Windows 12. It's gone backwards.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's occurred there.
Nor am I. Right, let's just move on to the next one.
I'm awaiting.
Yeah, so it should be up now.
The 5th god of chaos is looking out the window at the fireworks, so it'll be interesting to see what occurs now.
It's about to get noisy, your end, is it?
I'm going to answer this question first, having never played them.
Go on then.
And I'm going to say yes, they are actually a lot of fun to play against. I really enjoy playing against them.
Is it because they're easy to stomp? Because I'm awful, or? I don't like how much I've had to think.
I think I've lost as much as I've won.
No, that is quite true actually. Especially the early games, I was just kicking your head in with them.
Yeah, early on, when I forgot how to roll dice, you were winning most games. I think like most armies now, I'm finding that in close combat they've just got nowhere near as much punch as they used to have. The Sacrosancts in particular used to be an absolute nightmare to fight in combat.
Yeah, they were. The whole, not that I like to do it, but they were, an S tier unit. But Now, not so much. But yeah, like I was quite surprised when I did a video which actually had quite a bit of backlash on Reddit, where people just basically filled me in being like, "Are you crazy? Sisters are terrible." Because I said, "Oh, I really like them. I'm enjoying their rules." And I just got eaten alive because it just turned out they had something like a terrible competitive win rate, which I don't really care about. And on top of that, this is true, their army rule doesn't quite work, because the first part is the second you take an injury, you get +1 to hit. Brilliant. You know, 1 model's out of a unit, you're getting a pretty substantial bonus, you know, because it's an elite army, they hit on freeze. But the second part is below half strength to get +1 to wound. I mean, the second you attach a character, well, you're going to need to be at 4 models for that to trigger. Like, it's just really, really difficult one to make happen. Or retributors, you know, you have 5 models in a unit, so you know, freeze not under half strength, you need to be at 2 models, at which point +1 to wound's not really so great. The likelihood is that you've just been bulk gunned off the board as well.
I think the army rules are an interesting one. So when obviously 10th came out, I think there was a bit of noise that they were going to be quite good, and that there was an expectation that they were suddenly going to do, not suddenly going to do, but you were going to benefit from that +1 to wound quite a lot. Whereas in reality, I can't recall. You're so soft and squishy that the moment you start shooting at them, they die.
Yeah.
So you're not really benefiting from that +1 to wound very regularly, if ever at all. So in that regard, I would say yes, their army rule's not the best. The +1 to hit is very good, and you do benefit from that a lot. But the question is, are they fun to play? And I am terrified of melters. Absolutely terrified of them.
I don't think they're as bad as people are making them out to be.
Well, the range 18, you're not going to be standing at the back of the board blowing tanks off the board with a range 18 gun. The melter range of 9 is perhaps quite interesting. And although I did actually find out not long ago that the way you apply damage. So what's a multi-melter's melter value? Is it melter 4 or melter 2?
The melter 2.
So the way you actually work out the damage, let's say you halve the damage and you roll a 4 and you're in melter range and you add 2, you actually would roll the dice, get the 4, then you halve the damage to a 2, and then you actually add the 2 afterwards.
Is that how it works, is it? That's a bit
Yeah,
mad.
I didn't know that. Yeah, it is. So you apply all the everything else, and then you add the melter right at the end.
So it's a really consistent gun.
It's actually more consistent than... I mean, to be fair, damage reduction has been taken off quite a lot in 10th. I don't know why Redemptor still has it. It's upsetting, especially since the Turbogon lost it, which I will be grumbling about at some point in the future, once I paint my Tyranids. But yeah, so that actually does stack on. But the simple, like, those Retributors, when they're sitting in that tank hidden around a corner, I mean, and you're like, I don't want to move down that part of the board, right? I'm not moving my tank down there, because those Retributors are going to jump out. They've got 4 multi-melters. That's 8 shots plus the Cherub. You've got your miracle dice. They're hitting not great, but don't they get to reroll their hits?
They get to reroll their wounds on the turn they get out of a immolator,
Right.
provided the immolator
So
shoots the same target. But yeah.
So you're getting 4 hits, maybe 5, and then you've got wounds, probably 3, re-rolling. You should reliably get 4 wounds. Even on a 4-up invulnerable save, that's 2 going through. That's 2d6 plus 4 damage. If you haven't used a miracle dice yet, you've maybe got a 5 in there. So, you know what? It's definitely not a safe bet that your tank's going to come out of that alive. At AP minus 4.
Yeah. Obviously, this is provided on averages and not me rolling with them.
Yeah, obviously, I know you're rubbish.
Getting rolled like 8 ones.
and when I strategize playing against those stupid Retributors, I do go with the idea that you're going to roll properly.
Once in a blue moon.
Your Retributors roll the worst dice I've ever seen. But the simple question of are they fun to play? if I think a lot depends on your collection, right? You've added to yours recently, and now you've got a quite heavy tank list that you can run. You've got a Rhino rush list that you can run. You've got, I think you need to paint the Triumph of St. Catherine just because it's amazing.
Yeah, my girlfriend got that for me as a present about 2 years ago. So
yeah, you're in the bad books.
Yeah, that needs doing before I get battered.
You've got the convict list. That it's just it's just really fun, right? All the prisoners, and you know, if I mean you're not getting a codex for a while, right? You're probably not going to win a tournament with them. I think a tournament's going to be statistically leaning against you, but in terms of putting on the table and having a good day, I don't see why not.
I've not had a bad game with them, to be honest. Just as a little segue. Hello, Havoc. Good to see you, my man. Also, this question is to the chat. So, if any of you have played against or played Sisters, do please whack a comment in with your opinion before we move on. And as a final thing, I see it's got the stream's got 4 likes so far, and there's 12 of you in it. Let's change that. Smash it. Are they fun to play? Like literally, I've not had a bad game with them. Like, I like how they play. I like that they've got a good variety of stuff. I also like that they're sort of elite, but at the same time, a glass hammer. And I think the only thing they were lacking for me, which really limited what they could do, is where characters could only attach to certain things now. Because there's some things I'm like, oh yeah, this is a really cool idea. Then I was like, oh wait, they can't join the unit.
I think everyone has that problem.
But that's across the board.
Yeah.
But what they do have, which is a little bit of an issue, like the Sacrosancts, they could be really good if they could have 2 characters attached to them. Because you could increase the survivability with a Hospitalia, and then you could give them the Palatine for more combat output, or you could attach what's her name, Astrid Fergus, and then give them maces, so they have devastating wounds with the maces, so that's damage 2. So it'd be 2 devastating wounds each time. But like if you attach her and then something else, then you could spike that or make them more survivable, things like that. But the only unit that can have 2 things attached to them is the Battle Sister squad, which most of the combinations aren't really worth doing, because the Battle Sisters, you know, they've got strength 4 AP nothing bolt guns. But,
so let's not go down the line of what they could have, because then we're just here all day. Instead, are you enjoying playing the games?
Yeah, summed that up before I went on my tangent. Yeah, I enjoy them all the way. I'll happily put them on the table against anyone, including Eldar. Triple Wraith Knight.
I don't think you would enjoy a game against Necrons.
Well, I never do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
because about 500 of them come back.
Maybe that was just a lifetime hatred you have of Dan's Necrons now.
I think when I played Dead Rising on the Xbox 360, I think there was less zombies in that shopping centre than there was Necrons coming back when I play you. I think Dan's dog's kicking off the Beast of Chaos.
Yeah, the 5th Beast of Chaos is kicking off. Thinks we're getting murdered again.
I've not played against Sisters in 10th, unfortunately, but I've only got a few games in as Chaos. Yeah, that's how I'm on against Necrons. Yeah, they're good fun to play against and obviously play as. I've not played any Tau yet, but Necrons I think are quite good, but you need to make sure you kill the support units, otherwise you're just going to be going nowhere as the multiple 10 warriors come back a turn or something. Tau felt pretty easy to smash. They brought in all battle suits, and Necrons are really irritating. Yeah, they're irritating to kill for sure. Tim, enjoyed playing my first game against 10th. That was a very good game, Tim. I particularly enjoyed where all the water came into the garage. Made it quite aquatic, actually.
I think the Necrons are an interesting question, Havoc. I guess it depends when you played them. They've upped the points cost of them quite a lot. I think Necrons are one of the armies that if you really don't understand how they work, you are definitely going to have problems against them. And I think that I guess Luke experienced this when I think you got halfway through the game against the Necrons, and you said I'm shooting the wrong things.
Yeah, I was like, I need to kill that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm making mistakes here because I think they've done quite a nice job this way. If they do play much more like space zombies.
Yeah, for sure.
You have a few really hard units that will really hurt you, and then you have some other stuff that's just going to keep you busy. They're like super poxwalkers. They're just going to keep you busy forever.
Yeah, for sure. Right, let's just jump on to the next one then.
George has said something about characters.
Oh, let's have a look. Sorry, I missed
Yeah,
that.
I guess there's a bit of a Marmite effect there as to... I actually quite like the way characters work now, because I felt like if you take Adrax Agatone, who was in my Salamander's army, he was the last man into combat, and his job was to stand behind my army and point at things for the entire game. Whereas now, he may as well go and get involved, because he's only buffing his unit, and I need that buff on that unit.
Yeah. Yeah, which I suppose that's also quite nice, because actually having your like a Necron Lord, because I remember back in 5th edition, the Necron Lord is pretty nice in combat, and sort of having a return to that, where they're just leading that unit rather than instructing the entire army and just hiding behind a building all game. It's a bit more thematic. It's a bit nicer. I don't know. I just prefer it. I think I do prefer it.
I do actually really like it. They're also a lot cheaper. Like I think a lieutenant now is nowhere near as many points. The apothecary is sadly not as good, but nowhere near as many points. So it doesn't feel bad putting them even in an assault unit of 10 intercessors. Although I did assassinate him, and that made me feel quite good with life. Havoc's comment on Terminators, yeah, there's no way a unit of Terminators is going to chew through Warriors if they've got a Reanimator nearby and a Lord in there, and you've got the Crypto Thrall buff. You're just not they're on an objective they control. They're getting D3 plus, they're getting like 9 wounds back plus 3d3 a turn. You're going to really struggle to chew through Necron Warriors unless you can get rid of that Reanimator in particular.
Yeah, you literally need to be committing war crimes on that squad, or it's just not moving.
yeah, he's definitely not killing you either. That's very true.
Yeah.
You're not going to kill him.
Oh, well, it was literally like the Deathguard versus Necrons game. It was like Mortarion wasn't going anywhere, nor were these Lichguard or the Warriors.
No.
But it was just, they were like, this is our point. There's 20 of us, or however many there were.
Yeah, I do. Again, George saying here about leaders and generals. I think I get what you're saying, and I guess at the moment it was in 9th. It was stand at the back and point at everything and don't do anything. 10th is a bit more. I may as well throw them in. I guess you could have a unit or some kind of it's an interesting discussion point. I don't have an answer for it. I think I do prefer it the way it is.
Chris's point on the apothecary as well. It was very good in 9th. It's not as good now. I mean, well, it was insane in 9th, wasn't it? Because
I think the word you're looking for is broken.
Yeah, what was it? The chapter apothecary or something? Chief apothecary. It was just like, yeah, you're coming back to life, and so's your mate.
I think if there's something you're saying you're going to take in every single game, absolutely regardless.
Yeah.
And you feel bad when you haven't taken it, then I think you're looking at something that might be leaning the wrong way.
Yeah, 100%.
And at the moment, particularly since the balance day this late, and particularly since you haven't put your Eldar on the board yet, there's not a game I'm not enjoying. The best games I've had at 40k actually have all been in 10th, and we had some good games of 9th.
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, 9th, there was a few silly things. Like I hated the Dark Eldar in 9th. Hated them. Now they're actually, I enjoy playing them. 9th, it was like unless I deployed off the board, they were getting me turn 2, because they'd move up behind stuff where I couldn't see them, and then they would get out, advance and charge, and they were literally, you could cover about 70-80% of the board.
Yeah, you're not going to be happy when witches get advanced and charge in the
yeah, exactly. It's just
detachment, are you? Witches advance and charge. Yeah, you're not going to be happy. Right, let's move on. What's next?
Right. Similar question again. And this is definitely you, Dan.
Oh, more pressure.
Which is the Deathguard. Fun to play.
Oh dear. Fun to play or fun to play against?
Well, start off with fun to play. You let me know, and then we'll move into that.
So it was. I think this is an interesting one, isn't it? When we were going from 9th to 10th, I unusually have become emotionally attached. I think normally I'm quite good at accepting a change and going, right, we're going from X to Y. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's changed. I'm all right with that. And I said, I think before we started 9th and we went into 10th, I said, I think they're gonna. So Deathguard were the army that I picked up that I think I would have never picked up had we not been running the channel. And we decided to run the channel, and we got them and we painted them together in 3 days. I played them loads unexpectedly and really gelled with them in 9th. And it's not how I play war games normally at all. I will always be the person who's running across the entire board. I loved them in 9th, and I don't know if I got too attached to what they were. I'm really struggling to let go of the fact that they're not tough, and we've discussed that a lot. And I don't feel like when other armies are getting abilities that's -1 damage and Deathguard don't have it, it seems to be a bit strange. So there's a little bit of a pill that I think I was struggling to get over at first. I think it's been discussed a lot now that the army does not gel. The abilities don't overlap, they don't reinforce, they don't help each other. However, the games I've played, I have actually still enjoyed quite a lot. So it's been, I think, for something that I'm normally really good at accepting, I really didn't accept it, and then played the games and then did enjoy them. So I'm gonna say yes, they have been fun to play. They are really challenging for me personally, because with Deathguard, if you don't, and when we first started playing Deathguard, you won every single game, until I got used to them, and then I won every single game.
Yeah, that's
and
how it's been going.
I've found that more than any other army, if you don't put them in the board on the right place, you're going to lose, because you can't get to where you need to be.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I worked out there's no army in the world that can kill 60 poxwalkers, and then life became a lot more fun.
Zombie defense, Dead Rising.
Because it's like unless you've got a bunch of flamethrowers, you're not chewing through those poxwalkers. By the way, I am going to put 60 poxwalkers and 3 dark communes as allies one day, which is obviously the 60 poxwalkers got the 5+ feel no pain, and then the unit of dark cultists with the dark commune have got a 5 up invulnerable save and a 6+ feel no pain. So that's something like 150, 160 wounds at not many points at all. I'm just going to plop that on the board and watch you cry.
It's all right. I'm going to ally in a sledgehammer, so
yeah, that's a real one. Yeah,
you can do that. Well, I don't know where you buy a fake sledgehammer from.
Yeah.
That's fun. I've played, I think, maybe 1 or 2 games as them, and I did enjoy playing them. But it's also echo what Paul's written here, where they're about the aura debuffs that they got in the data slate. I really like that because it made things like their plague knives pretty good. So it's actually made them like the standard plague marine is a decent combat threat, so versatile as they have so much equipment they can just take, and now you're not worrying about, oh, how many points is it, is this unit over pointed, and it's just like, take what you want. So as I said, they can either be really good at shooting with their blight launchers, they can be an absolutely horrendous assault unit with multiple flamethrowers, combat weapons, even if they've just got bolt guns and knives, even then, like, they're still putting out a decent amount of shots and got that combat potential.
And I think we're quite fortunate to have like 30 or 40 plague marines painted, and if you're taking 2 units of 10, then we've got the ability to give them whatever you want. Obviously at home you can just say they've got whatever you want anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But you know what, I really do like plague marines. You are right, I love plague marines. They're plasma guns, blight launchers, melter guns, heavy combat weapons, and in fact they've simplified the profile as well. To you've got a heavy combat weapon, or you've got a plague knife and a gun. Is actually really good.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just those veterans. I think in ninth they were moving towards being a bit too tough at times. Like I did struggle against them. Like you just weren't shifting blocks of 10 Terminators with 4 pin runs, especially against someone like you who, like in that one game where I did like 16 damage-free wounds to you one game, and you rolled like I think it was like 13 or 14 4-up invulns, and I'm just like, this unit should be dead. They're alive right now. Like you've removed a model. What's going on?
You're gonna have that with any 4-up unit.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Terminators have it now, right? Standard Terminators.
Yeah, so standard Terminators I think are toughness 5, 3 wounds, 4-up save, and that's across the board. Obviously, the Deathguard are toughness 6 Terminators, which doesn't help as much as you would think.
No, not too much, but helps now and again. But I don't think there's toughness 5. I think is good, but toughness 6, I don't think there's much difference to being toughness 5.
Yeah, so I think the summary to your question is: are they fun to play? I think that the new rules on the balanced data slate have taken them from being okay to play to actually genuinely being fun to play. I still like all of the models. I still like all of the rules. I still like the fact that nearly every model on there has got a relatively new sculpt, and it's got a really good feel to the army. The thematicism is generally there in that they are just going to walk across the board. I was very surprised how they did in the Knights game. I don't know how you felt before we went into that one.
I thought they were going to get smashed up, to be honest.
The Knights or Deathguard?
The Deathguard.
Yeah. I'd like to see a really big center model piece that's not Mortarion. Does that make sense?
Yes, I see a bit where you've got the Glockin for Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Just some kind of big monster Nurgle, like either walking zombie tank or something.
The walking zombie tank.
The walking zombie tank. Am I enjoying playing them? I think I need to play more, to be honest. I haven't been my most played faction. But I have enjoyed every game I've played with them.
Well, that's good. I'd say probably maybe Standard Chaos is moving towards your most played faction at the moment. But then you've got a lot of armies. You've played quite a bit. So
Standard Chaos are the most played army, yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, guys, we're going to move on to some of the community questions that are asked on Discord. If anyone didn't get a chance to respond to me when I put out the question for any questions, feel free to chuck some in the chat now.
We are going to answer Havoc's question, and he has asked about Admech.
Missed that. Good catch.
So Admech are our most recent army. I've played 2 games with them so far. They were definitely having a bad time of it. Their faction ability to battle shock or cause mortal wounds to your enemy on turn 1 is on paper not great. It won the game that we played recently, but it's one of those things that you are never going to realize that it won you the game unless you sit there and edit a video afterwards for 4 hours. Because even when I edited it afterwards, sorry, did you do that one, Luke? I can't remember who did that one. Did you do the Admech one? I think.
Admech and Sisters. Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, so it was only afterwards when I watched it back that you decided to battle shock your whole army to avoid the mortal wounds. And then because of that, you didn't score a tempting target, and you only lost the game by a few points.
Yeah, literally, I think it would have been either a point in my favour as a win. So yeah, it did win the game for him.
So as a bit of a weird one, the army rule is question mark. They're very shooty, and they don't have. They're very unreliable. I think is what I've found with them so far. Is you'll point You'll point 20 tanks at a unit of custodians and nothing will happen.
Yeah.
So I don't want to commit to an answer, and I don't think that my sample size is large enough to say this is a fair review of AdMech. I also don't have any of the cavalry or flying units painted, and that is their speed. The Castellan robots, I think, are almost like, I feel like I'm almost going to have to include them, because it's the only unit they have that can walk forward, stand on something, and maybe punch it.
For sure.
But again, I can't say that that's, I definitely wouldn't put forward a voice on that from any kind of, like, I've played this a lot, this is my experience with them. Your summary of, are they having a hard time of it at the moment? They absolutely definitely were. That's been solved at the moment by a points drop. It will be, they are the next codex, so it will be very interesting to see, it will be very interesting to see what the detachments do, and if their units mesh together. And now I know I'm going off on a tangent, but the next codex I think is going to be very important, because we've only had the Tyranids and the Space Marines so far. There were very few movements off of the index cards, so if there's no movement on the index cards for AdMech and Necrons, then it might be the case that that's the way it's going to stick for most of the edition. They obviously write things 6 to 9 months in advance. So having put a lot of effort into painting the army at the moment, I'm on the fence.
Yeah, which is more than fair enough, to be honest, isn't it? Right,
Yeah.
Just getting up some of the questions now. Thanks for catching that as well. Right, so we will come back to your one, Tim, for sure. But a quick answer to your one: what do we hate playing? What do I hate playing against? I really hate playing against my friends when they haven't finished their army and they haven't turned up to my house in a while. It's very rude of them, Tim. But right, so we'll come back to that one, answer it properly in a second. Now, the first one is the favourite model that you've painted or assembled. We'll keep that to this edition.
I don't know. It's so hard. I love my monolith, man. I love my monolith. I haven't put it on the table yet, but
Oh no, you haven't, have you?
no, I haven't. I played against Chris once. Just threw his whole army at it and laughed. Nothing happened. I love my monolith. I loved painting it. I loved assembling it. I love the fact that it's actually quite good now. I pretend in my head that it runs buildings over. It's too big to move around the board, but I don't care. I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's a beast.
I'm really struggling. I love the Galatas Dreadnought. That is my favourite model of all time. It's like a Terminator. It's a dude with a shield, but it's a Dreadnought with a shield and a sword. And that's just... But I rushed painting that for a tournament that we were going to. Does anything else stand out? Just trying to think through what we've got that we've painted.
This edition.
I'm gonna go with them. I'm gonna this edition.
Yeah.
I finally painted a Bloodthirster.
Is that like one that you've wanted to do for a while, like a favourite sort of model? Is it?
Bloodthirster's iconic, man. It's like a Balrog, huge demon with a giant axe and wings. I mean, what else are you ever going to want to paint in your life than a huge demon with... And I did a good job for a change. So...
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but what about the Scorpion that I can't use anymore?
You can. You just need to start playing Horus Heresy.
I have to say that the Scorpion, what's it called? Brass Scorpion.
Yeah.
Was a model I always wanted. I painted it, but I painted it for the Black Legion. I'm going with the Monolith. Do you know what? At the end of the day, it wasn't even a hard choice. It's definitely the Monolith.
Yeah, 100%. For myself, actually, like I did at first, I was thinking maybe the Castigator. So I was putting it together as, this is a great tank. But my issue is I started painting two as a batch, and I was just like, maybe not so much this tank anymore. So I shouldn't have done two at the same time. That's too much detail. But actually, I've literally just finished it today. But I'd have to say, actually, the lion. Like the lion, like that was just awesome because I had loads of fun painting the little watches, and then just like each individual part, because I had it broken down to sub-assemblies. Like I remember doing the cape, and I was just like, oh man, this is so cool. It's got a lion on the lion, like he's wearing a lion. They're really going with a theme here. And then even the shield. Oh my god, the shield was probably the best bit of the model. There's just like so many.
That's the community actually. Anyone watching, what's the favourite model you've painted so far?
Yeah, it's not all about us. Come on.
Yeah, we've painted a lot more. It'd be interesting to see what other people's. I mean, we've just been painting machines, haven't we? Let's get as much done as we can.
Oh look, there's Chris body shaming the lion. Oh, he looks cool. I just wish he was slightly bigger. Well, do you know what I mean? He's got a chapter to run. He can't get down the gym all the time, mate.
I was reading the Descent of Angels again recently, and there's a bit where they need to attack a fortress, and he's collecting all his knights on Caliban, and I'm like, what for? Just go on his own. What's he doing this for? Man just needs to get up, just stretch it out, and get on with it. I don't think the lion's meant to be one of the bigger ones at all. I think he was one of the last ones found. Yeah, I don't know if he is. Yeah, that Eldrad that Tim painted was awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome, Eldrad. I'd love to see him again, Tim. Preferably on a table. Against me or Dan. I just missed him.
Yeah, the Master of Possession, if you've got the proper Master of Possession model, which I think they've only just released properly, is a great model. And I would understand why that would be one that you'd want to paint. Right, we should probably move on to the next question.
Yeah, so this one's a bit of an interesting one. So it's one hobby tip or hack. If you had to tell anyone, let's just frame it a bit better. So, you know, someone's maybe they've been doing Warhammer for a bit. They like doing their tabletop standard, and they're like, oh, I just want one little hobby tip or hack, either to get an army on the table quicker or to just be more efficient in their hobbying. It's not the easiest question.
Paint the bases first. That's definitely one. I hate basing models, so I do all the bases first.
Yeah.
For the whole army, if you can. Depends where you are in the world with your army. And number two is learn how to dry brush.
Yeah, you're on about the Artis Opus dry brushing though, opposed to
absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Traditional dry brushing.
You see, the wet palette's a really interesting one because I used to use a wet palette and now I don't use a wet palette at all, which is probably very controversial. But if you look through what we've painted, and Luke is definitely the better painter, that's not a question. Luke is definitely a better painter. I'm definitely a quicker painter. And I think then it depends where you want to go, because we're both very happy with our approaches. It works very well. And I think it depends what you want. If you want an army on the table quickly, my approach is better. And well, it's not my approach. I didn't paint in it or anything. But that approach is very, very quick. If you want a fantastic looking army, then you're going to need a wet palette. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely helps. I think my hobby hack is I'm obviously a big advocate for the airbrush, because it helps me just base coat really quickly, base coat in colours which aren't available in spray cans. It's like a bit fiddly to learn, but the reason I'm also a big advocate for it, because you can then use it to speed paint and army paint. Like, you don't have to paint in the way I paint just because you have an airbrush. Like, if anything, I underutilise the airbrush. Like, you could do so much with it, and yeah.
I think the problem with the airbrush is the barriers to entry are very high. You have to invest in it. You have to then almost start again, which is, I guess, where I am, in that I don't know how to use an airbrush at all, other than watching you learn how to use it. I think that most people can, and if we're saying, right, it's day one, welcome to the hobby, what would I sit down and do with someone? I would sit down, teach someone how to slap chop, and then teach someone how how to then use various, contrasts and washes to get paint on the model in the right place. That meant that it looked, in inverted commas, good to most people.
Yeah, I think the other thing, like, once again, in that frame of the question, my key one would be make your base coats solid. It's like so many people like skip that step. Like, you'll look at a model that have like really patchy base coats, so you'll still have some of the primer showing through and stuff like that. If you just do a solid base coat on everything you paint and have that all your details with the solid colour they're meant to be, it'll just look so much better.
Yeah, and then interestingly, Havoc has taken it from a different perspective, which is how to play the game. And I think obviously the good context here would be when we started playing with a couple of people who haven't played for a while. I think that is probably quite a good point, in that just learning what to shoot at what and what order to shoot things in is quite difficult. I think when you start
for sure,
back,
actually. Game knowledge.
You just need to play a load of games. You just need to, and I think if you're playing against someone who's experienced, you're gonna lose every time, even if they're being nice to you and not being particularly gamey about things. And also, don't play against people who are being douchebags.
I love playing against a douchebag. It becomes my most sarcastic going games.
I remember Bridger commenting on something, actually saying that two people went to the gaming store, one person got their army out, the other person got their army out, they looked at each other and went, yeah, we know who's won, and they packed away.
That's a bad place for the game.
That's really sad, isn't it? That you're like, oh yeah, this is not worth 2 hours of our lives. Let's just have a chat and a beer and go home.
That seems less like they're playing Warhammer and more like they're playing chess. These are chess pieces. They're not
just so you know,
things I'm
chess
invested in.
Even when you start, it's just who goes first is the only thing.
I've got the next question ready as well. If you're ready to move on.
Yeah, go for it.
And this one, like everyone as well, feel free to answer this one. What was your first ever model? I quite like this question.
First ever model I saw was Bjorn the Fell-Handed, and it's still the same model. That model got me into 40k. I went around my friends, and his brother was painting it, and I remember seeing this giant stompy dreadnought thing. And Bjorn the Fell-Handed, in my eyes, is the same size of a knight. And then when I went away and came back and saw the nappy knot, I was like, oh my god, that's huge. Poor Bjorn. He's just out of it. The first model I ever owned was a Howling Banshee.
Just one?
5, because they used to come in packs of 5.
I was going to say, like, how did you just end up with one?
Five Howling Banshee and 5 Dire Avengers. £4.50, by the way.
Who did you pay to rob them?
I didn't need to.
That's just the price, was it? Wow.
Back in those days, you could afford them.
Back in them days, I think for me, actually, it was a box of Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings stuff, where you got like a few high elves, a few goblins, and like a couple of men of Gondor. And I'm sure I painted them amazingly. I don't know where they are now, but once again, they're still the same models, and I might not have even been much older than 6.
Oh, the good old Dark Eldar Cabalites. I loved those models when they came out. They were... I think it took me 6 editions to kill anything with a Cabalite.
They're just that good.
They were useless.
Let's just have a quick look through.
Grey Knight, Strike Marine, yeah.
That's painting still learning to do one decently. Yeah, painting's like a progressive thing. It's not about being the best. It's about doing something that you enjoy and you're happy to put on the table. At the end of the day, more than ever now, especially with the hobby, we're all really connected. So it's really easy to open up Instagram, and it's a bit like a teenage girls magazine, you know, like, oh, my models are ugly, this is awful, this is amazing, why can't I do like that? The truth is, when you see these people which are phenomenal, like Golden Demon winning painters, they ultra no life it. Like, I know life painting as it is, and I'm nowhere near as good as them guys, so they must ultra no life it. So balance in life is an important thing. I just love painting, so it's not too much of an issue. So never worry about that kind of stuff. Just enjoy it for what it is. And there's tons of resources out there anyway, if you do ever want to try new techniques and improve. Contrasting colours, airbrushing. Here we are. Yeah, it's a shame if you've had some people come into the hobby and then just be like, this isn't for me, because they've come up against the Tau gun line and just sat there and been blown apart. Because Tau tend to either be really good or really bad because they're only active in literally the shooting phase, which is a shame.
Going back to a question of what don't Tim I think asked it is what don't we like playing against. The only games I don't like are, and I don't care which side of the table I'm on. In fact, I probably feel worse when I'm on the winning side, is when it's just a one-sided game.
No, yeah, like it to actually be a game, a challenge.
Yeah. I don't like the best games are the one where I'm not talking, because I'm sitting there working out how I'm going to win. And I'm like, I've got to be. We played that Dark Eldar game, which is coming out this week, and that was another one of the best games I've played, because the whole game was just us both staring at the board like chess grandmasters, going, "How are we going to win? Because this is hard." And that was a game of chicken. That was. Yeah.
Obviously, we're not going to reveal who won or didn't win, but it was a proper close game. I think once again,
I think the important thing is the right person won.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, it's a great game. That was a great game. But the only games I genuinely don't enjoy, is I almost feel bad when someone commits really hard, really early on. I don't like a game to be overturned too, whether it's me or them. But then but that's my play style. I always prefer to receive the charge and counter attack. So I'll struggle on any kind of Alpha Strike army. And I appreciate if someone wants to take an Alpha Strike army. We went to a tournament and some guy was using Blood Angels, and he went all in on the Alpha Strike. And it's like, yeah, fair enough, I don't mind. That's obviously part of the game. That's not an issue. But the game was decided by the end of turn 2.
Because he'd either bounced or he'd smashed you.
Yeah, and I don't dislike those games, because he got to do his cool thing and then I got to do my cool thing. But a one-sided game where it's over by the end of, it doesn't even matter what turn it's over by, it's just the fact that you're looking there going, yeah, we both know where this is going, and no one's necessarily having fun here.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often though. I don't think that happens very. I think the 10th's actually quite balanced.
Yeah, I think for me, once again, it's not what army I don't like playing. Mine always comes down to attitude. You could literally table me, I don't care. I could table you, well, that doesn't happen, but I don't care. It's all part of the game. Mine's all about the attitude. Like, I've got to spend, if I'm at an event, 2.5, 3 hours with a stranger, someone I don't know, playing a game of Warhammer. And what I want from that is an enjoyable experience where we're both having a good time, having a laugh, backwards and forwards, and obviously enjoying the game. Now, I'm not going to say where it was, but we did go to an event, and it was a small event. I'd won my first game, and then the second game was a mirror match against my army and this other person's army, and they'd won their first game too. And I sort of went first. I'd counted the things that their ability to score and things like this through smart deployment. But when it come to my turn, like, it was one of those games where every roll you roll is a hit, every wound is a wound, every time you have to roll damage it's a 6, and I'd done half his army before he had his turn 2. But as this started happening, the guy was sulking, and the thing is, it was a mirror match. His army was better than mine because it was a net list. He'd taken a tournament winning net list, but just through luck of the dice, I completely smashed his one to bits. But he started sulking, and as we get to the end of that, he starts his turn 2 and he goes, "Oh, I'm conceding." And I was like, "Dude, look, I'm really sorry you've not enjoyed the game and you feel that you need to concede." I was like, "However, mate, you have won your first game, and it's a 1-day small tournament. You could still come first, second, or third if you win your third game." And he's like, "No, I'm going to concede." I'm like, "If you do that, bro, it's going to swing the tournament. It's 3 games and you're giving me max score." I'm like, but he was like, no, and then that was it. He's gone, left. And it was just.
But then that comes down. I think that comes down to what does each individual want from the game, and I think that at the end of the day, you want to try and find like-minded people to play with. And sometimes that can be a struggle, sometimes not. At a tournament, you're going to get people who might not quite play the way that you want to play. And I think in regard to himself,
yeah,
that wasn't going to be a good game for him. So, in some regards, I guess it's not the best for you because you didn't get a second game.
No, you turn up to play and it's like, well,
yeah.
You say I don't want to table people. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on. Next question.
Right.
It's actually gone on longer than we thought it was going to. We've waffled for England.
Blame the chat. So this is quite a nice one because I think there's been a big resurgence of it, which is what drew you back to the hobby. But just before that, I'm just going to go through the chat again. So Tim's first model was Azrael. Yeah, banging model, and the fact it's only just recently been redone. Love that. Dark Eldar Cabalites. Yeah, we just touched on them. Grey Knights. Yeah, Lord of the Rings is good. Good Havoc. It's a great game. You don't need tons to get into it either. Literally 2 boxes in the character, and you can go to most events. Cheeky Dwarf Spearman for Chris. And boom, we're back to there. Yeah, so what actually got you back into the hobby? Because much like myself, I know that you haven't consistently done it. Like I hadn't done it for a long time either. You even longer.
Stupid friends. You know what? I don't know what, but I actually, for some reason, I've never stopped reading the books. So, collected when I was younger, never stopped reading the books, have read all of the Horus Heresy books, listened to audiobooks in the car every single day, read all the Horus Heresy books when I didn't have room because of like renting jobs wherever I was at the time, and then I don't know why, but I sat down one day and thought, I wonder if there's a battle report on YouTube. Found Tabletop Tactics. That was at the end of 8th. Watched 8th, decided I wouldn't like it. I didn't like the deck drawing, if that makes sense. You know, they were drawing the decks.
Yeah, basically what it is now, but well, it was a bit different.
Yeah, and then some stupid person I knew said, "Oh, let's do Warcry, because you don't need many models."
The gateway.
and how many games of that did we play, Luke?
I've played quite a few games of Warcry.
Yeah. One is the answer. Okay, I played one game of Warcry with you, and then 9th came out, and then we bought 9th, and then that was that.
No, it's been that way since. Yeah, Dan fully also, we won't like to admit it, he gatewayed himself back in. So I call all these small games that Games Workshop has, like Kill Team, Underworlds, Warcry, I call these gateway games because you get people that used to do Warhammer and a big percentage of them are coming back being like, oh, I don't want to do this big army, and they're like, oh, I'll just get this game, it's just, you know, like 10 models, and then they go, oh wait, Combat Patrol, that's only like another set of models and a hero, oh, I can do that, and surely but slowly you end up getting
just find yourself with an army. Yeah 40k works at 1500 points, but
yeah 500 not so much, which is what I fully agree with. And I think I'm sort of similar to yourself. Like I wasn't really doing tons, you know. I'd go see friends or play computer games and stuff. But it got to a point, I remember for like about 7-8 months, I'd turn the computer game on, play for about 40 minutes and be like, I am bored. This is boring. And much like myself now, I was just really bored all the time. And then it was my girlfriend actually was like, oh, well, you could try painting models. That looks fun. And it's actually her fault that I'm now doing it again.
Yeah, supportive girlfriends are important.
Well, I think I'm technically supporting her, aren't I?
Maybe.
Let's paint some models together. That sounds fun. Life over. But no, to be fair, unless anyone's got some like last minute things, we did plan to stream for an hour. It's gone about 20 minutes over that. It's been fantastic having actually a lot more people than we expected joining. Like, I was expecting it to be just me and Dan talking to ourselves, if I'm brutally honest. So once again, thank you everyone for jumping in. Obviously, if you haven't liked it, leave a like. And obviously, if you're not in the Discord, jump in the Discord.
think we'll remind people we're going to publish the mission. We're defending the planet. We'll film that this weekend actually. So it'll probably be a couple of weeks till we get the edit out, and we'll be a couple of weeks behind on when we write the mission and when we publish the mission. Just a week after that to play their own game, and that's how we'll run the campaign from now on.
Yeah, brilliant. Once again, thank you everyone, and we will then see you when we next see you. And thank you for your continued support. Until then, play some games. I want to hear about them. See you all later.